Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the first Southeast Asian Percussion Forum.
Yay.
Yay! Today we have this panel discussion about contemporary percussion music in Southeast Asia. And let me give you a few introductory remarks. My name is Max Riefer, for those who don't know me. I will introduce myself and the others will introduce themselves later, but just about this talk beforehand. The idea for this talk came when I played a lot of percussion music from Southeast Asia, contemporary percussion music from Southeast Asia. I worked with composers, and at one point I realized I know a lot about them, about how they work, how they deal with percussion, but interestingly, I don't know so much from other performers' perspectives. And that's why I contacted beautiful colleagues from the area and asked them if they want to join a discussion. And so these are the people for the first edition. But let me give you a disclaimer right from the beginning. We do not claim to give a full representation of what percussion in Southeast Asia means or what percussion means in general. In fact, in today's discussion, a lot of aspects will not be covered simply because there are we are not experts for anything that is percussion or can be seen as percussion is such a vast field. Today we focus, as I said, a bit on the performers, and we will talk about terminology, we will talk about repertoire, and also we will talk about education, because the four members of this panel are also educators, not only performers. If people from the audience if you have questions, please write them in the chat at first. We will have this discussions among the four of us for 45 minutes to an hour, and then we open the discussion to anyone who has questions, and then you can also ask questions through your microphone. But turn that off, please. And yeah, then we start. And I would say the best thing to start with is to introduce the panelists. And we start with the letter A in the family name, which is Mr. Carl Acuncius.
Hello, I'm Kyle Acuncius. I'm based in Hanoi, Vietnam, and I'm the timpanist with the Sun Symphony Orchestra. And I've been in Vietnam for about 3.5 years now. And before that, I was based in Bangkok. I taught at Mahidol University and was in the Thailand Philharmonic Orchestra for about 6 or 7 years. What else do we want for your intro?
I think we'll learn more about you while we have our discussion. Thank you very much, Kyle. So the next one is Mario Choo. Mario, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mario Choo, and I'm a percussionist with the Singapore Symphony Orchestra, and I'm also a faculty at the Yongsu Conservatory of Music, and also a part-time lecturer at the LaSalle School of Contemporary Music. It's very long. There's also a collaboration with SIA, so I hope I have gotten the whole name down there. Previously, I've spent some time in Denmark, where I was a student there, and also some time in China, where I was doing some specialization of Chinese percussion over there. And yeah, so that's about the introduction of myself.
Thank you very much, Mario. And then we continue with Tony Maryana, live from Yogyakarta. Mastoni, you have to turn your microphone on. We don't hear you. Yes.
Hi, everyone. You can hear me? Yeah, okay. My name is Tony Maryana. I'm a graduate from Music Department, Institute Seni Indonesia. My major is percussion, and then my focus study is musicology. I'm now make one founder of Total Percusi. Total Percusi is like a organization for percussionists in Yogyakarta. It's like a community. We have make a lot of make festival, perform, and then publishing, and then promote percussionists, new pieces for percussion, and then also we have a kind of workshop for public with the percussion. Also me doing like some what you call sound artist, also make a sound installation. Of course, relationship with the percussion, because for me, it's like the percussion is more development now. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mastoni. And then, yeah, I briefly introduce myself. As I said, my name is Max Riefer. I'm currently teaching at the Music University in Lübeck here in Germany, where I do not teach percussion mostly, but I'm the director of the music ensemble. So I teach chamber music and I conduct the ensemble, organize new music projects. And before that, I lived in Malaysia for over 5 years, where I was teaching at the University Technology Mara Faculty of Music in Shah Alam. And also I was part-timing at the Youngsuto Conservatory. That's where Mario and I were colleagues for a short time, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's why also like my passion for Southeast Asia developed even before I moved to Malaysia, but then through my time in Malaysia, and then as you all know, in Southeast Asia, the scenes are connected. Then you quickly go to Indonesia, to the Philippines, to Singapore, to Thailand, to Vietnam. And so yeah, I discovered a lot of beautiful repertoire, and that's also the reason why I want to know more about all this. And I studied in Freiburg with Bernhard Wolff. I think I should say that as well. Okay, so enough for the introduction. Let's get right into it. And I would like to start with a seemingly easy, but actually in the end quite difficult question. How do you define percussion, and how do you find contemporary percussion? Who wants to start with that?
Okay, me. From
Yes,
Jogja.
very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for me, it's like a percussion is the art or vibrate something between silence, space, and also the object. Also, the term of the percussive thing is like important for me, especially in Indonesia, right? Almost major traditional instrument is percussion. So that's a lot of from also the percussive thing, also the way how to present sound, gesture, also the visual thing. That's will becoming more interest for me in percussion. So it's like to make to percussive, to make a vibrate something in space. For me, that's very important. You can clapping, you can tapping, you can shaking, you can hit whatever. But the point is like that's very very foundation are also the pulse, the structure of the music, maybe for me. So and then where I find the contemporary music, this is the story is I'm start from 1998 coming to enter school. At that time, I have not like now, internet or YouTube or something. We in Jogja is a very small city, but the art life very nice. The atmosphere very nice. So at that time, like we find two short. One it of course in school, university, and one is in another community. For example, I start from university. In the university, we don't have a lot repertoire, especially for percussion. We just start from, of course, same like classic, like Bach, like marimba or timpani. But at that time we have like a student like, come on, we must do something with uh, with the percussion ensemble. At that time, spirit is ensemble, and not solo. But at that time, the student is like play for ensemble. And then we make a first ensemble percussion in Yogyakarta. Kelompok studi perkusi is like a student study for percussion, and then we find repertoire for that like for first contraction in metal, very classic, right? Then Henry Cowell Pools, and then we have some repertoire from like influence from world percussion, like a lot of African repertoire on there, that like African sketches, and then African welcome pieces, Mikal Udo, and then like Senakis they have, but we not play because at that time, because the technical at the time we not good enough for play like very skillful at the time. Yeah, but spirit that like me very important to looking for kind of repertoire. And then the second is like from outside a university, is like come from theater, come from dance, come from theater. That must, for example, you make a music and then you must start for exploration what kind possibility, new sound or new technique or new way with new way, and then to product to make a music with the percussion. So at that time they have a lot of ensemble group play like percussion with the freely, not with the stricting with the like in the university. So yeah, we have not a lot of reference. Of course, we left behind the score is not because in the university they the scores come from before they have a teacher from Holland, and then they bring a new repertoire like classic repertoire like contemporary pieces, but it's not too much. And then I have some my teacher he is before he's composer, and then he start to make his pieces for adaptation like a traditional becoming use a traditional instrument, but the way we play and think is like Western music. We must play it like it. But at that time, it's very important for me for experience as player. What the hell? What the kendang usually play like this, and then use with the stick, and then some people with, hey, you cannot play with the stick. Well. But my teacher is always, no, we must find new way. We must find new spirit of the traditional. This is case traditional, our traditional music becoming a new, grow and then development. So that's why at that time thinking is like, okay, we must create ensemble. So not too much to play solo. like marimba spiritual. They have a repertoire, and then for Japanese keiko abe pieces with the sub, like hit the bar or something. And that yeah, interesting. So for me at the time, like thinking, wow, so we have a lot way uh, to sound one instrument or something with hit with a lot of possibility. That's interesting for us at the time for create new music. And then after this we finish the score, and then why uh, or uh, we must doing up after the finish we play, for example, one pieces, and then what else we play. At that time we don't have a composer, so that's why some friend or me also start to writing music for percussion ensemble at that time. So that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, thank you
So
very much, Tony. Sorry,
yeah,
sorry that
okay.
I interrupt for a second, because actually,
Yeah, okay.
you already answered the next questions that I would like
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that I would like
yeah,
to ask. But it's actually very
yeah,
interesting aspect you said, and I found this a lot also in Indonesia. These thoughts on how can we take our local modes of practice and how can we well develop them. I mean, this is something that has been always going on, obviously, but as you described, like you take the gendang and play with sticks, and then some reactions are, no, you cannot play with the sticks, and then others. So it's like I think these discussions are actually very interesting. But maybe let's hear from the two others. Maybe Mario,
yeah.
you want to say something? What is that percussion and contemporary percussion for you?
Sure. I think percussion, maybe let's answer the second part first. The word contemporary, it's for percussion, it might mean a little bit differently, a different meaning than compared to other musical instruments. For example, if you're gonna ask a violinist contemporary music, they'll think 1930s, 40s till now. But for percussion music or solo or chamber repertoire, it's the pace is moving much faster, I would say, than almost any other instrument. Like if you think back 20 years, the music now and 20 before, maybe in the 90s, was all the big percussion concertos, Veni Emmanuel, or also the Icelandic composer Eskil Mason, all that great solos with From a drum song, and Kim Prim, all that. And then 20 years ago with all the minimalistic glass, and so imagine if we are gonna say if Philip Glass is contemporary now, then it's like not really. Because then is 10 years ago, then people started using music with tape. I'm a big fan of this. I first ventured into that when I started playing the One Study, One Summary, and that was in 2011. I think the piece was written 2010, and then maybe it was the only benefit of the pandemic to the percussion in this last year, and also from this year there's explosion of pieces with pre-recorded audio. So so back to the question. So for me, right, it's contemporary percussion, it's moving about every 20 years. So then if we stop listening or looking out for the new pieces, then we will actually be sort of behind the trend. Yeah. So, but and for percussion, I play in an orchestra. Sometimes we get very interesting new compositions, and then sometimes we are just back to the classics. Or the classics, it's just finding new ways to the old problems. So I usually like to relate this into also the solo or chamber repertoire. It is because like we will just keep finding new ways to solve old problems. But of course, if we have new problems with new pieces, that's a very good welcome. Yeah. So other than that, it's maybe I will probably compare percussion to a very good bottle of wine. You will need to have it all the time in most ensembles, in orchestras, in small ensembles. But if you have it alone, right, you can't have too much of it. Not for everybody. For us percussionists, we can go for it.
Yeah, I don't mind, but yeah.
If you get what I mean.
Yeah, totally. No,
Yeah, if you go for wine tasting or something. But you know, for other instrumentalists, if they listen to a percussion concert, they will be really excited. They want to see something new. Nobody wants to hear like something they know, because a cellist can play a Bach better than a percussionist on most times. Well, of course, we can introduce new ways to listen to old repertoire, but you know, maybe I'll be still traditional on that. I'll leave some repertoire for the original people, but we have enough of our new repertoire.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with that. Although, well, we come to that later when it's about teaching. There is a value in playing Bach on a marimba,
Yes.
but not in a concert. That's my opinion, and I think we're like-minded with that. Yeah, thank you very much. Let's hear from Kyle. So Kyle, what is percussion? We have some new guests in here. That's why I just want to repeat that question. What is percussion to you, and what is contemporary percussion or percussion music to you?
Oh, sorry, no sound? No, good. I think percussion can generally be described as anything that creates sound from silence. Anything. It doesn't have to be an instrument. It can be a body part. It can be a motion. You know, anything that creates sound from nothing. And for contemporary percussion, I agree. I think it's always changing. It's always developing. It's always evolving. Always evolving. It's just trying to maximize the sound possibilities of any instrument. It sometimes can be breaking the rules and pushing boundaries of traditional music. It can be extended techniques, new ideas on sound or timbre. It can be a new notation, can be involving electronics or digital elements, can using indigenous instruments. I think that the category of contemporary percussion is everything. I mean, it can be in any context. It can be anything, any piece, depending on how you approach it or how the composer approaches it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carl, for that. Yeah, I mean, I agree with the three of you very much. I mean, you already said a lot of things. Carl, actually, your microphone is a bit, I don't know, there seemed to be some issue with that. I have then, so this is, I fully agree also with what Kyle said, what Tony said before, that percussion can be anything, right? To be a bit more specific, I had this thought recently, like when we take, and maybe I play a bit the devil's advocate here now, or maybe I get a lot of, I'll say like a lot of opinions against me now, which is no problem. I just throw this in here. I was thinking when we take a local modes of practice in Southeast Asia as an example, because that's what we talk about here. Things like Karawitan, which is like the classical Javanese gamelan music, or Dikir Barat from Kelantan, and so on. There are so many fantastic modes of practice. I always ask myself, is that percussion music? And not because I look down on it, not at all. It's the opposite. So I was wondering if we take the term percussion, what is that in the local languages? So in Indonesia and Malaysia, it's perkusi, which is clearly a loan word. In the Philippines, if I'm not wrong, Jonas, it's percussion. So So maybe that can show us if we see that this term also reflects on some cultural aspects. So maybe maybe this concept of percussion hasn't been there before some, like, let's say the Western influences became stronger, whatever that is. So I really wonder, can we consider all these local modes of practice as percussion? Is it can we put that into the same bucket as the thing that we learned at our universities in the US, in Europe, and so on? Why am I questioning that? Is because I have met percussionists who came from European conservatories, and then they go to Southeast Asia, for example, and say like, oh, that music is easy to learn. I can learn that. And nonchalantly think that because they are very good at playing the Sherazade on the snare drum, their orchestra excerpt, they can easily master any other kind of music where there are percussion instruments included. So this is just a question that I want to throw in. Oh, Sarah Weiss, thank you very much for the comment. Yeah, later on when we open the floor, then I think we definitely need to discuss these kind of questions a bit more. And yeah, talking about contemporary percussion, and that's of course what is contemporary. It's the music that we play today. So as simple as that. You know, some even say what I think also we'll talk in a moment. We will probably talk about pieces, as Mario said already, like Xenakis and Safas and so on. And interestingly, Tony mentioned Cage and Cowell. Yeah, I mean, this music, you might say this is influenced by Western education. It's like this Western idea, Western concept of percussion. I use that in brackets, or I would say like quote unquote Western, because I don't like the term Western for that, simply because this music has been in the region for over at least 50 years. When we consider Ramon Santos wrote his beautiful piece Time Improvisations in 1970, right? So that's the time when that's 5 years before Safa by Xenakis was written, by the way. So this music has been in the region, and I really think it has been localized and mixed with all sorts of influences. That's why I don't want to use the term Western for the things that we do. And I think when you, unfortunately he isn't here today, but when you talk to composers such as Septian Dwichayo, or later Tony can also talk about that, this is just local music now, without labeling it, oh, it comes from the West or the East, or such horrible terms. But maybe we can discuss that later. And we have to discuss this later. Maybe let's go on with the second question. Some of you answered this already. Which repertoire do you play and teach? As simple as that. Who wants to start? Yes, Mario, please.
Maybe I'll start. Okay. I play, besides all that symphonic repertoire, I play a lot of Zenaki. I also play a lot of Esquel Masson, and I like John Satas a lot. Not because of the notes, I just like how it sounds. The notes are terrible, so difficult. Oh dear. Ask my student Pat, he's playing that One Study One Sum right now. He hates it, but it sounds fantastic, so it's great. I also play some pieces by Chinese composers written for Chinese percussion. And so, yeah, these are the repertoire that, well, for me, I don't really limit my students to follow any specific repertoire. They choose the repertoire, and then we try to put it together. So they have autonomy over that. But if they come up and say, "Look, I have no idea what to play," then I'll recommend them something.
Would you then, maybe before I pass on the question to the two others, then do you still, you say you let them choose, but do you also give them purposely pieces from local composers, like from Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and whatnot?
Well, I choose from the ones that I know. So I worked with some local composers, and like for example, Xiao Xuan, she has done a lot of melodic compositions, and so if it is fitting for their recitals, or sometimes it's just for an exercise in doing setups, then I will introduce it to them. But for me, it's the local sense. At least for in Southeast Asia, we are armed with more wide-ranging styles of instruments. If you compare it to, I'm gonna use the term you don't like, Western.
Yeah,
that
I forgive you. Yeah.
you know what I mean, right? If you are in non-Southeast Asia area, then you don't have the gongs, you don't have the different metallic instruments, the different skin drums. So I like to add a local flavor to the pieces that I know. It could be from Scandinavia, it could be from the US, any other places, and at least for the type of instruments that I use, I add a local flavor to that. So that is from my what I'm doing with the students for that.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Then we go on. Maybe Tony, you want to say something about that, about repertoire choice of playing and teaching? Because I know you have written a lot of interesting stuff, actually.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I'm not teaching percussion at university, so I'm just talk about with the total percussion doing, especially relationship with the repertoire.
Actually, sorry to interrupt, Tony. I think this is really important to say. Teaching is not limited to university, so that's why I think it's
Okay,
very important that you say
okay,
what you do with Total Percusi.
okay. So it's like we play like, especially we have one program we call we collect new repertoire from percussionists or from local composer, and then they write music, and then we looking for percussionists for play. So we like meet between composer and percussionist, and then we publish one production like album percussion, and then we have some program routine we call berbagi klik, like you before do it. Okay, so we invite some composer, for example Saktian, and then they talk about what the percussion now in Q composer, and then Saktian explain, and then we share to percussionists, we share to public, and then we have some yeah, we interest with find no style, but what what the percussionist Indonesia can do it, and then have a flavor atau have a identity. It's kind where we're looking for, because this is like a very for me it's very, yeah, like you said before, we lot from import repertoire, then we put play our or local composition. So that the problem until now. So because we don't have any strong percussionists here, they just play yeah, just by repertoire and then play they don't have a mission or vision for the percussion music in the future.
Although
Yeah.
I would like to disagree. In Indonesia, there is Total Perkusi. So maybe besides Total Perkusi, there are not that many initiatives. But I think what you do with Total Perkusi is really fantastic. I mean, for everyone, please check their YouTube, because there's a lot of great thing that comes from the Total Perkusi community.
Yeah. Also for me is find new language for make or erase boundary, like you said, west and east, or like Karawitan is very yes,
Mhm.
and then the west timpan is like, so we try to break down the boundaries like this. So we meet like traditional music, and then one program we called in Berbagi Klik, we try to invite some percussionists and then some traditional musician percussion, and then they talk, then create something together, or each other can share the knowledge about whatever. So that's we are doing now.
Yeah.
For example, like Septian pieces like you play before. It's the different. I'm like why so the different is play with Indonesian percussionist and with you, and then yeah, it's true. You can ask yeah, even the Septian kan, wah, the percussionist Indonesia is like we must what because they not usually play see reading or seeing and how to understand the language, the contemporary or the symbol or thing. They don't usually, they just play regularly. That's trouble in here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, now that we talk about Septian's piece, I think it's also the right time to pass that on to Kyle. I would like to share some music in between. However, I don't know if we have the time, because this sounds like we could keep talking for 4 hours. But maybe Kyle, because you and we have played this piece by Septian Di Chahio. Maybe after your answer, we can show like 30 seconds or so.
Sure, of
So,
course.
what is the repertoire that you play, and also do you incorporate music from the area, from Southeast Asia?
I think the repertoire that I play really depends on my mood, because a lot of the times I may not have a consistent solo schedule. So I really get to plan in advance and just kind of keep things in my pocket and kind of decide pieces that really mean something to me, or composers that I feel very passionately about, or my repertoire is often changing. When I was a student, I found that it was really kind of pushed down our throats that these are the pieces that you need to learn. This is the style of playing you need to have. This is the type of pieces that are going to get you work that people want to hear. Well, then I moved to Asia, and none of that applies really. The type of pieces that I spent my education learning are not all of them. That's a very bad generalization, but for a lot of the music that we're learning, I think that it's not really what is approachable here sometimes. So in terms of what I teach, I like to have the approach that the student does have a lot of control in how they feel about the pieces that they're playing, because there's nothing worse than having a student play a piece that you have assigned them and they have absolutely no interest in doing, especially when it comes to multi-percussion or contemporary music in general. If it's a really hard solo that maybe you feel is technically above them, but it's something that you want them to strive towards, it may have the opposite effect in terms of their learning process. So now, with the amount of repertoire that's very, very readily available, and they have this vast pool of selection from like YouTube and just wherever they can hear about new pieces. A lot of the time, students end up bringing me pieces that I've never heard before, composers that I've never heard before, that I realize have extreme significant merit in terms of like what they can learn and how I can kind of navigate teaching to be beneficial for them, and plus it's a piece that they really, really want to work on. In terms of pieces from the area. So like, for example, when I was in Thailand, a lot of the students would bring me pieces that they were working on in collaboration with the composition department or student composers. And so with the pieces that they would bring me, you know, it's oftentimes that I feel that I was learning something with them, which was beneficial. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think, again, the three of you mentioned very important aspects. Mario said you can only teach what you know, and I think this is a very, very important aspect. As a teacher also, you can only play what you know, right? You know, the thing for me is that, and Tony, sorry, that's very obvious that you guys try to support and develop sort of like an Indonesian percussion scene, which is extremely, I think, extremely important and great work. You know, I think that this repertoire repertoire has to be built through performances. Like we cannot complain that there are not enough pieces or there isn't enough, you know, there aren't enough opportunities if we don't perform these pieces. I mean, obviously, and this is a little bit my focus at the moment. I have been playing especially pieces by Southeast Asian composers, a bit, you know, by choice, because I have worked together with many of them. Jonas is here today, and there are many others. So it became sort of like maybe like my mission, you know, just my choice to say I want to do that. And maybe that's why I'm a bit biased when it's about this repertoire. I don't know, but yeah. So I think for me it is important that on the one hand percussion students get to know all the classics. And now this is a very interesting topic because when we talk about classics, we usually talk about the first Cage pieces. We talk about at least in Europe, but I'm sure in the US as well. We talk about Lachenmann Anterior. We talk about Zyklus by Stockhausen. We talk about, of course, King of Denmark by Morten Feldman and the mentioned Safa by Xenakis, and there are others. But again, what I said before is when Ramon Santos wrote his piece in 1970, and you look at the piece, it is the quality is so high. There's no reason to say the piece isn't played because it's of low quality, because it's totally not. I mean, that would be a different topic to compare this with Zyklus. This is actually something I want to do soon. But the Stockhausen piece. So why isn't that played? So that was sort of my question, and that's why maybe I do this a bit much. I don't know. I enjoy it, but I really think there's so much repertoire from the region that has to be known, and that's why I play it. But of course, I don't want to sound like a missionary. And actually, then I pass on the question, which derives from that. Like, what do you think are the reasons that these pieces written by composers from Southeast Asia, with having a history going back as much as like 50 years, what are the reasons why these pieces aren't played that much or haven't made it into our percussionist repertoire, like, you know, like a lot of Japanese compositions and of course European and US American compositions? So what do you think? Kyle, do you want to start?
Could it even be something as easy as, you know, availability of the scores, with their manuscript scores, or if they're in low demand, or if they're in low supply, or just, you know, a lot of the times when I was a student, I would get pieces from a photocopy from 20 other people from 20 years ago, you know? And so by the time that you get them, you may not have all the notes, it may be blurry, but even now I feel like a lot of the stuff is probably under published and not readily available outside of the country unless you know of that composer in general.
Yeah, before I comment that, who else wants to add to that? Mario or Tony? Mario,
Yeah,
please.
I second that thing about the publishing. Like, you will get some, for example, like editions with or tab space. They are very good with their marketing, and so you will get sort of a lot of their recommendations or similar repertoires from the same editions. Like if I was to purchase something from them, and it's a whole bunch of new repertoire from them, and so sometimes this some composers will fall through the crack, and their pieces, which I'm pretty sure are also excellent, they will lose out in that sense. And actually, at LaSalle, when I'm actually teaching a percussion ensemble or chamber music class to the composition students over there, and they have no idea where they can get their music published or to get more sort of exposure for their pieces. So I have to direct them to the right places where you could get these things performed, and you can even get a fee for it. And they'll be like super duper amazed that actually this is possible. But and this is coming from a performer or teachers to the composition students. And so I think that kind of they really like that kind of people that points them in the right direction. So it's actually quite a shame. And probably also also afraid of approaching performers. Like, this is a shout out. If you have a piece, send it to me. Like, if you go to okay, this is example from our orchestra. If you go backstage, there's the Mayoyo or some famous soloist. The people who are really, really good, right? They will not reject you and say, "No, look, I don't have time for this. I'm gonna go have dinner." If you're a composer, you have a piece, and you feel that it's fantastic. Of course, you feel it's fantastic. If you bring it to a player, and I'm pretty sure they will showcase it somewhere, or even through their students or something. So this is that wall that have to, I mean, WALL, not WAR, but they have to jump through.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before we go on with Tony, I think I would like to answer a quick question by Sarah Weiss here in the chat. She asked, is there an online site with complete scores for percussion pieces, or is the copyright issue too much of a presence? Well, to answer the first part, there is none. And I don't know if copyright is the issue, because I know a lot of scores that aren't published by a publisher, or just published privately. So I think that nobody has done that yet. So I think this is one of the issues. But it would be great to have like an online repository, such as what's the Australian Music Centers, that's how it's called. They have this fantastic repository where, even if you cannot access scores, but at least I mean, you can for some pieces, but even if there's only the name of a composer, instrumentation, and so on, this is already very helpful. But anyway, sorry to interrupt, Tony. Can you give your thoughts on that? Why is this repertoire not as played as it should be?
Okay. The first is like we hard to find local pieces, of course, from composer, Indonesian composer, but recently, but now is start we make like connection. For example, we have pertemuan musik Surabaya. We have art music today, like a music information center. We have OMCMM now that start this Monday, have a festival. So we start communication between them. Can you write pieces, or we have a commission for that. But before before this time, we like information a lot a lot of come from Percussion Art Society, if you know. So yeah, we like a student like okay, you have money, and then we, because this is very very important but expensive for us. Yeah, you must subscribe for 100 to get information, to get a library, what composer thing, and then what the ration composition, and then what tip trick for the percussionist at the Percussion Art Society. We like what we have for at the time. We must pay, all right, every month to get this information, but the information is for me at that time is very important, because we know what's the issue global about the percussion in the now yeah, we have some composition like local who we play at the time. For example, like come from, it's 1998. Yeah, they some, the title Elevation is come from composer Tataji Susiadi from Yogyakarta. This is very very, I mean, like a pioneer for percussionist in Jogja. So they great teacher, and then me also study with him, and then lot of kind of the energy, good energy at the time. For example, it's like a kung fu, you know, playing percussion is like kung fu. Before we start, we must make an instrument first, like glockenspiel, because at that time we don't have a glockenspiel. So that interesting. We learn tuning, and then how to create kind of the metal, like a bell thing, because we don't have. But the teacher is very great, because okay, we must have new pieces at the time. And then the second is like Jose Maceda pieces from Asian Composer League, and then come in Yogyakarta at the time in 1999. And then me, like a semester one, we don't have anything about contemporary music, but he like explained to us like very very simple, like it's not hard pieces, it's not like, but it's very very simple thing. At the time it's gong and bamboo, basun, choir, and percussion. At that time it's like okay, oh, this is if I know the language, if I know the message of the pieces, we feel like enjoy the play. So at the time. And then the third is like me play like of course Mas Tony Prabowo, they have also ensemble play market with he have an ensemble percussion before, like the title is play market with like a world percussion instrument. Yeah, also like band Pasaribu, already passed, but before he's also great percussion, always like teach, like support. Okay, you must, if you don't have anything, you do it by yourself. Also Tata Behan Sungut from Slamet Abdul Syukur with this song, and then you are, I'm jealous because you play Jawara.
Oh, there I have a question. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, but I have a very important question that I waited for so long to ask you this. I recorded Jawara by Slamet Abdul Syukur. The piece is a solo piece written in 1993. And that's how some of you know me. I put these things up on YouTube, and then I post it on Facebook and say, hello, it's up, please have a listen. And then you commented, Mastoni, akhirnya bisa lihat Jawara. And to those who don't speak Bahasa, it says finally can see Jawara, the piece. So my question is, why finally? Why haven't you been able to see or play the piece before?
The first is we don't have information. Even the Slamet not mentioned about this. I'm only here Lila flute with percussion.
Jalali, or yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have mentioned. I have basis Jawara. Also, I not asking more. I don't asking more to him about that. Also, so that's why it's like why this also question for you from me. Why almost all South Asian composer want play with you?
I take it as a compliment, but I tell you one thing. I also, when I read your comment, I thought already that obviously you haven't had access to the score and you didn't know about the piece, and this is for me also a huge problem, because it shouldn't look like you know, I come and you know, I steal all these pieces and then I build my career on that. That's definitely not the image that I want to portray. So I really think, yeah, this is actually a very important thing that we have to ask ourselves. Why is this music? Why isn't this music accessible? Why aren't the composers today way more than it used to be? But especially with the earlier pieces, why aren't they promoted? Maybe some of the composers,
I mean,
unfortunately,
it really
can't
takes
promote their music anymore.
performers. Sorry, is my mic on?
No, that was actually wonderful. Yeah, it takes performers, and that is exactly
it takes
something, yeah.
dedicated performers, but it also, I mean, like we were saying before with our earlier questions, we're really living in this kind of golden age time of percussion where anything, like, we kind of write the next chapter, what's going to happen next in the next decade, in the next 20 years. So it's really up to performers who are pioneering this music to get it out there. You know, and social media, YouTube, that's what's available to us now. So those things last. You put pieces up and eventually they will be found, and eventually they will pollinate their way throughout the world. You know, I think that our question and an original topic of this discussion is because we're just now in the very beginning of this process, the last 10 years or so, with unlimited free access to information. You know, and if we have this same topic of discussion in 15 or 5 years, you know, 10 years from now, it would be different, and we might be very happily surprised at what has made its way out there. But it takes performers. It takes people who are really dedicated to pioneering this music and feel very passionately about it, the quality of the music, the quality of the people that are writing it, the quality of the region.
Well, absolutely. And I think this is what I think, because repertoire has to be built through performances. This is what I really believe in. And actually, Sarah Weiss has another great comment here and a great suggestion. Let me quickly translate that with my bad Bahasa Indonesia. But she said, like, maybe we don't have to, you know, the scores don't have to be sold or, you know, have to be published. But how about we just put them in something like a Google Drive, you know, videos and scores, so that it's easier to distribute the music, at least to those where there are no copyrights, obviously. I think that's actually a great idea. So then it would make it easier for people to access this music and then finally play it. Because I think this is what we all want, composers and performers. Yeah, what we could see, I think it's true. I mean, there's this publicity issue is really big. Plus, then also, I think, Tony, you mentioned there's also a lack of budget, right? So, I mean, you know, you need, if you want to commission composers, it has to be performed. Yeah, when you want to commission composers, you have to pay for that in order to get the piece performed, which is good.
Do you know of any composers in the area in Southeast Asia that, or performers that have started consortiums? So this is a big thing in the US. It's like, if you want a major composer to write a piece, you put together a consortium. And this could be for a large orchestral work, it could be for a chamber piece, could be for a solo piece. But, you know, I don't know the last time that I was on a consortium, but I think it was for I can't remember.
Was it for the Alim Haldab vibraphone piece?
No, but that's a good example. So this piece, for example, I don't remember how much the original consortium was worth. That I don't know, because it's been a decade or so since that piece was commissioned. But the amount of people, 20, 25 people that jump on, the financial contribution is relatively low, you know, when you have that many people. But there are a few other percussion specific organizations like this in America. I'm not sure about Europe and in Asia that have these kind of things for composers. Maybe they have a list of 15 or 20 composers that they feel very strongly about. And somebody posts in there, you know, I feel like we should have a solo marimba piece from this person, or we should have a small multiple percussion piece, no more than 3 instruments, you know, 5 instruments from this composer. And then you just get things rolling. But it usually turns out pretty quickly. You find people that are passionate about that composer, that or have the need for that specific type of repertoire, or, you know, it can be a lot of various reasons. But before you know it, you have 15 people who really want to contribute to getting a piece written, and quickly. And then those performers also will have exclusive rights to performing it for a certain amount of time. And yeah, I think that that's something that could be really useful in Southeast Asia. Again, I have never been a part of a consortium in Southeast Asia, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's also actually also well, at least what I know is that this is a thing that happens a lot in the US. I also haven't really heard of that in Europe. Maybe there are 2 foundations that collaborate or so, but like these consortium things, I haven't seen this outside of the US actually.
Usually it's like with percussion solo pieces, you find some like Alejandro Viñal, for example, after he wrote Khan Variations, there was a huge like interest in his music from a lot of percussionists. So the next, I don't know, 5 or 10 pieces that were put out were all consortiums by either universities or individual performers or chamber groups, something like that. But it really, I mean, it's really a very easy way to get pieces out there that you know that performers want, that they're interested in.
Yeah, I think that's one of the options. Also, Sarah Weiss here writes, you can go fund me, for example. That's true. I have sort of these were all the questions we talked about before, and I think it's time to maybe open the discussion to the audience as well, because I see here some names. Sarah Weiss, thank you very much, has already contributed a lot of important things. Also, yeah, Jonas, talking about our mafia. To those who don't know what that is, it's this a lot of composers in Southeast Asia. You know, they're colleagues, they're friends, like we performers are as well, and they call themselves. It's a joke, of course, but they call themselves the mafia because they really like to work together. And on the other hand, they are also one of the major driving forces for new music in the area. It's Jonas, it's Kyong, it's Anutai, Michael Asmoro, and I mean many composers. I forgot to mention many of them now. Has anyone anything to say? Jonas, please.
Yeah, yes. I was listening to the whole discussion, and I'm so fascinated by the way things are going. I'm very impressed with Tony, particularly. I haven't met him, but I'm very impressed with his work in a way that it's good that we have this kind of discourse, and apparently I find this a very good way by which we can look at ourselves as not only as Southeast Asians, but as musicians, as people, in fact. But we also have to remember that discourses like these only help us to map out what is really chaotic, what is really dynamic, what is at best ambivalent in the practice of music. Whatever is percussion may not be percussion. I was talking about one of my pieces called Daloy, which uses gongs, but the musicians from which I got the inspiration and the very notion of that piece is that they're melodic instruments. They're the notion of the spiritual world that goes beyond that. The use of those gongs actually has to do with more of this interlocking melodic pattern and the perfection of that aesthetics as things. So apparently if you ask Benny Sokong, is that percussion music, he would say, yeah, but I do the same with flutes and I do the same with the panpipes. And so actually, to only map that as percussion music will be problematic. But I guess just to put this in our head, map it out in our head, we see it as percussion. But there's more important thing is what the rubrics of this discussion is all about, the tenor of this discussion. Actually, we also have to realize that the notion that the reality that the Southeast Asian composer or the Philippine composer is not as widely performed as, let's say, Lachenmann or Spalinger or Xenakis. It's because of the role of the Southeast Asian, or the stakes of the Southeast Asian in this rather broad field of cultural production that is actually concert music. Concert music being that there's a mode of production about its performance, right? You have an organization, there is a place where it is performed, a concert hall, and in fact, there is a mode of behavior between the actors, the listeners, and the performers. Of course, if you cross those boundaries, you actually break down those things. And then the next thing you have to ask also is, with regards to this mode of cultural production, is what is the role of Southeast Asia in the global political economy? I think there is a repercussion that resonates to that, why composers in Southeast Asia are marginalized in that sense. Because we are not holders, so we don't hold much stakes in production itself, in the global political economy. So, okay, we can create this little margin, this little peripheral sites where we can share with each other. But hopefully in the future, we can go into the bigger field of production, and but the reality is that we are yet to go into that I think. So my answer only is that we have to go back to orality, and we should not we should not bother ourselves with worrying about being published. I like what Tony is doing actually. This little pocket things. There is power in the peripheries, and marginality can be used as a source of power. Okay, I'm not making sense anymore. But anyway, that's
you're making perfectly sense, Jonas. Thank you very, very much for your contribution. Okay. Let me quickly, exactly, a round of applause. I mean, let me quickly add something to that. We just had last week, we had the famous New Music Festival in Donaueschingen, and I couldn't be there, so I cannot judge the compositions and stuff like that. I haven't had the chance to watch anything yet. If it's still available online, I don't know. But what I know is that they got extra funding to represent music, and these are not my words now, but music from the global south. However, I find this term problematic, but that is not part of the discussion maybe now. But you could say, oh, you see, the music is represented at festivals such as Donaueschingen or Darmstadt or so, and that's positive. But actually, I agree with Jonas and also with Tony. More important are these pockets, these local pockets, as you called them, Jonas. Because then the whole field gets strength, because then the field is recognized. I mean, is what Tony does. Obviously, I emphasize that many times now. I think it's really remarkable, because when you talk about Southeast Asia and percussion, the name Total Percussi is one of the names that gets dropped very at the beginning. Not because Total Percussi is touring worldwide all the time, although of course I hope you guys can, but Total Percussi is so known because of these very strong initiatives that they have in Yogyakarta mostly, and then also in Jakarta and so on, and collaborations. Thank you, Jonas. Yeah, that's very important. Sarah, you were clapping to Jonas. Do you want to add something to that?
Oh, I'd like to meet you someday, Sarah, by the way.
It's true, Jonas. We keep meeting in, we have these Zoom meetings. We should really meet in person at some point. Hi. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's everything and. So both and is more than, I mean, it's even more than both and, because I mean, where there's energy. So for instance, say a percussion ensemble from Indonesia does a couple of really well-known pieces from the canon. I don't care, pick the ones that you love, right? And then you actually reach out to the composers if they're still alive, and you do a big campaign. I mean, like, these are things, it takes energy, it takes believing that what you're doing is actually interesting enough to other people, and trusting that you're going to do it well. And I mean, it's clear. I mean, I've seen Total Percussi on, you know, in various posts and stuff. And so, I mean, it's clear that there's like a lot of talent. And so, as I forget who I think it was Kyle who said, you know, if there's an interesting composer or performer and you want to have them interact with you, if they're real people in that sense, then they're going to respond. So I think that if, you know, if a couple of times a year some Southeast Asian ensemble decided to do a big advertising campaign for itself and draw people in, invite composers to maybe commission a piece that does take money, but GoFundMe or some kind of group funding. I mean, I just feel like you have to, it's not going to come to you. You have to make it. And like Max is trying to make it happen here in Europe, and to build those connections, and so is everyone else. But I mean, maybe more consolidation, I don't know. But I mean, if you believe that you can reach out and make people pay attention, it will probably happen. But you have to communicate in the venues where people who you want to communicate with are located. So if you only work with your own website or something, that's good, but you have to draw people to that website. And so you have to go to theirs, and you have to reach out, and you have to be insistent, and you have to believe in yourself. That would be my, I mean, look, I don't know. I mean, everything that Jonas has said is actually true. I mean, you know, the standing of Austria or the standing of, you know, Southeast Asia in the world political economy is minimal. There's no question about that. On the other hand, it doesn't have to be if it's an energy bubble that's blowing up bigger and bigger and bigger. That's how inspiring, just be inspiring that way. Now I'm not making sense, Jonas. I caught it from you.
No, that's really good. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. I mean, you know, this is actually the idea to start this as a forum, Southeast Asian Percussion Forum. That was also Tony's idea. I mean, my initial thought was like, I meet up with colleagues and we discuss things, and then Tony wrote this, why shouldn't we do this as a forum? And that also means we will continue doing this, hopefully, because this is actually very important. Well, to me it is, and I'm sure for many others as well. And there are so many more colleagues in the region that also have different perception of percussion, different perspectives, and so on. Not only percussionists themselves, also composers, maybe even people who run festivals and so on. So this could be the start of a very long and fruitful collaboration, and I think this is needed. Thank you very much so far for your contributions. Are there any other questions? Any other comments? We have colleagues here. I see that percussionists who might want to say something. Silence. Yeah, what about students? Rachel Ong, exactly. What do you mean? What about students? You mean like if students in the panel want to in the discussion want to say something? Rachel Ong, you raised that question.
Sorry, I was looking for the unmute button. Yeah, I mean, I see that Adam here, who's a student, your student, and also Mario's student.
Yeah, Mario's current student, correct?
Yeah, and your ex-student.
My ex-student, correct.
I'm curious to hear what they have to say about this, and what do they think about this, you know, as a student or anybody else.
Or Firdaus is here as well, who also used to be my student.
Maybe Alvin and Aldo can.
Oh yeah.
That's what I thought too. Yeah. Alfin and Aldo. Don't be shy. So what do you think about this? Like repertoire from the region. What have you played, and have you ever given a thought of like promoting it or keeping it, making it a repertoire and so on? Okay, nobody dares to. Yes, exactly. Speak in any language you want. Exactly. Thank you very much, Sarah. Okay. You can give it a thought, and maybe, because I think there are still a couple of things that can be discussed. I mean, there was also this other question when we prepared this talk, and that was by Kyle, and it says, from an education point of view, how useful is this local repertoire for employment in the region? Oh wait, Kyle is.
Sorry, I just wanted to interject one thing, because we all know when you're studying, you have 4 long years of devotion to an institution, to a teacher, to your studies, but really that goes by super quick. And in terms of actually choosing repertoire that you get to perform as a student, it's very limited. You have to choose very carefully in what you study while you're a student and what pieces you choose to devote that portion of your life to. We take it for granted now that we're out of school, but when you're in school, you have access to all these instruments, but you also have only a few performance opportunities, really. So you have to choose wisely, I think. And you have to choose pieces that really mean something to you and that you think you're going to perform for the rest of your life. Things that you really, really feel passionately about.
I agree with that. I just think what Mario said before is very important. You can only perform and teach the things that you know. And I think as a student, I mean, I don't know, although I was in a school where we played a lot of solo repertoire, but looking back, still the repertoire that we knew was also very limited compared to what I know today. So that is just the question, which pieces can we add in to a repertoire? Yeah, Sarah has a question though. I
just raised my hand because I wanted to add something to that. I think Kyle is avoiding saying something which is very important. So if you decide you want to become a professional percussionist and you want a world audience as opposed to kind of, just your own world in your own conservatory, then you have to be very strategic and you have to demonstrate without a shadow of a doubt that you are at the same level as anybody who comes out of any other, top end percussion studio. And in fact, the people who are having this conversation right now are probably all too young to be actually having the impact that you want to have. So another both and strategy would be to get elder statesmen of the percussion world. I don't know, Bob Van Zeiss from Yale, or other people who are, at the high end. If they are out there advocating for inclusion and bringing these kinds of pieces into the canon, it's going to have a much bigger impact. And so, if you decide you want to go for that international role or even a national role, then you have to be playing the canon. I hate this word, but you have to be playing the canon as well as, or better than, sometimes better than anybody else. Simply because you're already working against the sense, oh, you're not at one of the great culture centers, LA, London, Netherlands, or whatever. You have to prove that you are better at least as good as, which is always better. So, it's only after you've reached that level that when you advocate for a piece or for something from quote unquote, and then you have to also avoid getting pushed into the bubble of, oh yeah, he's from Indonesia, so he only plays Indonesian pieces, and then you get othered simply, even though you have all the chops that you need to play all this other good stuff, you just want to feature that. Then so there's so many barriers, and I just want to recognize that so that people don't get, they don't feel distressed or, I don't know, disappointed in when you make an attempt at something if it doesn't work out entirely. So it's like you have to do everything. That's it. You just have to do everything. But the strategy is really important. You have to be strategic, I think, as a performer from Southeast Asia moving into the world elsewhere. You have to be very strategic. Japan is maybe a good place to start, because the Japan Foundation has a lot of interest in Southeast Asia. They have a whole section dedicated to building connections across between Southeast Asia and Japan. I don't know if they still have enough money, because I've been paying attention to that recently, but when I was living in Southeast Asia, we had a lot of money from them to do things. And so that's a source. And then once you're in Japan, then it's maybe you can reach out to, to other places. I don't know, but it's a conundrum.
Although I think actually that I mean, you're absolutely right, but I think at the moment also the connection to Europe and the US is very it's getting stronger as well. Or I mean, Mario, you have studied in Denmark, and I also know that a lot of YST graduates study then in the US and so on. So you're right, Japan is definitely one option. With Japan Foundation, Goethe Institute is probably one option. But actually, as you added to Kyle's comment, Kyle, do you have something to say?
Sorry, about what was the original question?
No, just what Sarah just said. You have to be strategic about this.
I think, yeah, it's all about playing the game. I mean, in terms of like your career, I mean, repertoire is important. Choosing repertoire that you feel passionately about is important, but it's also something that you don't want to waste a lot of time on if it's not going to be beneficial in the long run. Employment's hard. Life is difficult for musicians, for percussionists. You only have so much time to devote to a certain thing or a certain area of expertise or a certain repertoire. So choose carefully, I guess. And so when you're as a teacher, when you're recommending repertoire for students, you really have to put yourself in their shoes. Like, how is this going to benefit you? You're going to spend 2 months learning a piece for a recital at school, but that's 2 months of your life that you might devote to another area of percussion or another perfection of something,
Although I have to quickly say, sorry, that I sense a little bit of boredom coming up, because if we always think, okay, we have to be strategically, it means like we have to learn all the orchestra excerpts and then best play Xenakis and play King of Denmark, then we limit our repertoire very much. So this is something I urge all of us to be very cautious, not to be too strategic all the time. But we have Adam Sharabi who wants to comment on that, and actually I would like to give him stage now.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so actually so it's more of a question actually of a suggestion. I find that actually as a student here, and I mean not only here in Weiss, as a percussion student, I often find myself having to play like repertoire that is considered for learning. Like, for example, if I were to have to play a multiple percussion setup piece, then most likely I will be recommended, like, let's say, rebounds, like from Xenakis. But I was wondering if actually these new music compositions by local composers were actually help students in developing, I don't know, their, let's say, I don't know, technique maybe, and the multiple percussion setup playing. And if there are no, and I was also wondering if there are pieces from local composers that are focusing only on like one instrument, like marimba repertoire from local composers, or like anything besides multiple percussion setups, because I find that it always gravitates towards that, at least the way I see it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very important question. Who would like to answer? I think Mario wants to. I see that.
That would be a good answer. Actually, next semester I have a few local composer pieces with a vibraphone for you. Once your jury is done. But anyways, but you take a listen for them. They are mostly melodic, and yeah, actually you preempt that.
I think another important point is if there's not a piece that you have by a specific composer that you're interested in on an instrument that you're interested in, you ask them to write for that instrument. You know, if you're sick of having just multi-percussion pieces, ask the composer, hey, can you just write this for this instrument?
I mean, now that we talk about like anything else but multiple percussion, Tony, you have written a lot of pieces for ensemble, also with electronics and so on. Have you written anything, or can you recommend a piece for marimba, vibraphone, and so on? Because that is actually also what I observed. There isn't actually, I don't know of much repertoire only for vibraphone or marimba from Southeast Asian composers.
Yeah, that's interesting. About the for example, like we before about multiple percussion, like our festival before, we have a focus looking for what's the multiple percussion basis. At the time we have great percussionists, also composer. At the time the premier Septian Dwi Cahyo pieces, and then we invite, for example, the name, also the composer. That's great because the language, the gesture is different. Like the you play ribbon, you play the pieces multiple percussion, but we looking for what the taste, the new of the multiple percussion from a local composer or percussionist. So that's why interesting pieces. A lot of at the time festival that we have 5 pieces. The Nidumbo, there is great percussionist. They play with the pipe and then the fun object kind of nothing. But the rhythmical like structure is like the different. Not it's very improvisation sometimes, but that's great. You can check in the YouTube. Denny Dumbo. It's kind of, and then the second is pieces is also come from German. Kenner Roth. I forgot the name. Also some Germany composer. So maybe you know Roth, Kenneth Roth. Are you here?
No, actually, I don't know. If you have a link, then maybe share that to us.
Yeah, you can see the in the YouTube Total Percussion.
Yeah, to everyone, by the way. After this talk, go to YouTube, Total Percussion, and subscribe to their website, to their channel. That's really, really interesting.
Okay, and then me like me also, because now percussion is not static, right? Not just instrument, or they can transform, become anything. So that's why I like one pieces like with the live processing, also computer and the cobel, on the cobel. Also I have pieces like Two Brother. We play on the Asmoro Festival, Yogyakarta Contemporary Music Festival. We have some like Indonesian wind instrument, Srune, and percussion, and then one with the computer. Yeah, so that's why we start to making repertoire for percussionists, also for people in Yogyakarta, especially at the time. Also, this is complex here because not we lot of kind of percussion here. Percussionist here is the different method, different way to presentation. That's kind of make our diversity. But it's like very, especially like classical orchestra percussion is very limited here. Different with the freestyle, we call freestyle. I mean like people who play percussion and then they lot of here. Then classical percussion like marimbas or ensemble like Nexus or Chromata. No, here we don't have here. So that's why make me sad why they not have ensemble group or especially solo for some young musician. They now is start to getting strong for play solo pieces.
Yeah, that's why we have to start our own, Tony. Let them come to us. Don't think of the need to go to them. Let them come to us. We have so much to do for ourselves, and I think it has to be first and foremost ourselves.
Yes,
ourselves.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, this production is for ourselves, and to incorporate people like Max within this notion of self. I mean, there are people like Max who engage with us, for example, and be part of us and be part of our development. Dieter Mack is another important driving force, for instance, or the other ethnic scholars who also come here and help us thinking over. I mean, these are things that we actually have to do for our region. I think we have. I don't know. Is it too radical to think that we should think of our region first? Is that too radical, or am I being a leftist if I say that? Am I being a terrorist if I say that? I think first and foremost we have to do. I mean, I started the Manila Composers Lab for the very purpose of creating a community for the region, actually, and because there was already a community brewing in 2009 when we first met in Kuala Lumpur for this festival. Of course, we had institutional sponsorship, which is needed. The Goethe Institute is very understanding in that sense. I mean, and we had these competitions and all these things, but it was already brewing. The energy remains here. Our worldview should begin here. It has to begin here. I mean, that seems to be radical. I mean,
it's not radical. I think it's like this is
precisely. That's why you have to come to Manila. You have to come to Manila next year.
Actually, Jonas, let me say something. I don't think it's radical as long as we, and I know you don't mean it that way, but just to verbalize it, it's not radical as long as we don't define us only with identity, like what is my passport, but everyone who wants to be part of that community can be a part of that community.
Max, Peter, people like those.
Kyle, Mario, Sarah, Rachel,
those people.
Whoever is here, many people here.
Peter
Veal,
Peter Edwards, Peter Veal. I mean, this is what Southeast Asia is. It's becoming itself from the very Aufhebung, the contradictions of itself. I mean, it becomes itself. That's fantastic. But the energy is here. I mean, the energy is here.
Sarah says it wonderfully here. Sorry. Yeah, she writes this in the chat wonderfully here. A non-ethnically essentialized but interested and engaged community. Yeah. I think this puts it perfectly in words.
Otherwise, we'll be repeating the same errors that were imposed on us during colonial times.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else wants to add something? This is a very important discussion at the moment. Sarah, so nice. She nicely condensed it with this comment in the chat, right? That's the perfect summary for these things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice.
But I have to say, I want to be a little bit careful there, because in some ways it's true. I mean, I actually believe that. On the other hand, it's also possible to read what I just wrote as a sort of a colonial statement.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, you know, and
yeah,
I don't mean it that way at all. My
no,
point is,
it's better to just let it happen, Sarah. It takes happen. That was my first. I saw you in Felice Macay, my student, and that was the thing I was telling her. Don't be too concerned about difference, because that was what well, there's a long story to that, but difference and all that stuff. Don't be too concerned about that. It's remember that you're in this field, and I think we just have to let things happen without defining it. I think discourses like this help us to map out things, but at the same time, it also inspires us to go on and let things happen. I mean, maybe Kyle can do something, or I mean, things like those. I mean, we are all in this thing. Yeah, Sarah.
I just wanted to just be clear that sometimes, especially among younger performers, there's a sense of bonding and a sense of belonging that comes from, you know, maybe all the percussionists at YST Conservatory are going to bond together and play, or maybe all the kids at EC Jogja are the ones who are going to, they have the energy, and in those instances when it's when bonding is ethnically and linguistically important as part of the identity of that energy, then that should also go ahead. It doesn't mean that those same people couldn't also participate in a non-ethnically bounded thing. So I just want to make sure that, you know, this is not canceling anything. It's just inviting and being more open to everything, but then also having circles with boundaries that are very porous.
That's why we created the mafia, Sarah.
I gotta learn about this mafia.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, this is, as I said, I keep repeating myself. It's probably due to my poor English. This is a very important discussion, very important aspects. And also maybe what I mentioned when I said before, as long as we don't limit this to identity, maybe this is also me having lived in Malaysia for a long time, so that those who know Malaysian politics and all that maybe are a bit more sensitive when it's about these ethnical divisions and stuff. Yeah. But I agree with you, Sarah. Of course, it shouldn't be forbidden, of course. Yeah. I have a last thing then, if nobody wants to add something to that. No? Okay, because Mas Bambang wrote something in the chat right at the beginning. Where is that again? Mas Bambang, did you write it in the chat? Or at least I wrote it down. You said something like, maybe it's time to coin a new term for the things that, oh yeah, thank you very much, Rachel. It's time to coin the new term of contemporary percussion in the future, since technology and new media conquer us and so on. And I think this discussion also shows, like, it's not so easy really to define percussion, to define contemporary percussion. I'm not even sure if you really have to find a clear, if we should really define it clearly, but I think it's a good thought. Mas Bambang, do you want to maybe explain that a little bit more, what you meant with that?
Thank you. Actually, I'm really enjoy this discussion, and actually, Mas Tony and also Kylie and all of you, Mr. Jonas, Baes also have conclude all I don't mean to coin or to make a new terminology, but I just want to make it warn us about this kind of what do you call the new technology and also new media, like maybe the situation of like us now, we experience like pandemic, so we must really thinking again about what we should do. And yeah, it's not so technically, but it's just kind of thinking on the way we think and the way we act. And yeah, that's only my point is, yeah, I think you all just done great this evening. And I'm really enjoyed, and from personally, I because I'm dealing with teaching with kids, and Mr. Max knows came to my school. Yeah, and this is very important that the aspect of rhythmic we must build from the beginning, because Tony also mentioned vibrate and pulse. It's pulse in our blood. So what we build is to make a rhythmic, and also we don't what you call divide with ethnically or region, but actually percussion is in our body, is in on whatever region, like Philippines or Malaysia or even Europe, American. That's, but yeah, that's just my thought. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mas Bambang. Anyone wants to comment on that? No. I think it's yeah. This when you said it's in our blood, it's in our body. I really think this is another. Actually, this is probably something we could have in the next edition. What is the role of the body when we play? Because there's probably no other instrument group in a very wide sense where we have to be so much aware of our bodies, right?
When are you doing that? I like that.
Pardon? Sorry. Oh yeah. Oh, for the next, yeah, we definitely could do that. So then I will write this down now. So and then
I like that discussion, because I had experiences with that with a group of people called the Iraya Mangyan here in Mindoro Island, about movement. It's not percussion music, it's vocal music, but there's movement and
yeah, I think it's very, very important.
The thing is, I think that conceptually, I understand Mas Bambang's suggestion. It's yeah, because percussion, but for the time being, we could use that word. But actually, we're actually going further away from what the schema of what percussion is. I remember when you first came to Manila, the first night, Max, you were with this group called Rachel. Oh no, Rachel is there. I won't tell her. Anyway, no, never mind. She's gonna kill it. Anyway, so everybody in the ensemble Silisi, which you were part of that time, introduced themselves. I'm this guy. I play the piano. I'm Daniela. I play the saxophone. I'm Maruta. I play the flute. And then Max was the last to introduce himself. I'm Max. I play everything else that they don't want to carry. So apparently, the analogy of what a percussion is actually is like everything else. I mean, it's like you go to the percussion room in Freiburg when I was a student. I go there and I find like everything else. They're not really. I mean, you find the chicken squeeze thing, quack 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 thing, and I mean and you put that in the percussionist. Okay, so the percussionist actually is the precisely the percussionist actually is the scavenger of the orchestra, so to say. Would you agree, Kyle? Would you agree with the scavenger?
Yeah, we play everything and we play nothing. I mean,
yeah, precisely. I mean, that's very close to the nature of what a percussion is when it comes into the cultural imagination of a classical orchestra. And now it's becoming its own self. It's becoming a different animal. So which I'd like that to grow. So I think we should go further into this discussion and like I'm writing a piece now, which also writing an essay with it. It's about punctuations and punctuations. Anyway, I think I told Max about that one time. Anyway.
Oh, here we go. Sarah also said, I was at a concert on Friday evening and the percussionist in the performance was asked to play some slightly dried tree leaves. Was it this sounds like some Michael Pizarro piece or so. No.
Oh.
It was Annie Lockwood.
But I used this bean pod rattle.
Yeah.
I got this from the Tatyawan of Mindoro, who uses it not as a musical instrument, but I discovered it after we had like this recording for until 1 a.m. of this certain singing, and we were to go back to our hut, and I had like 3 or 4 people with me, and the boys were going ahead of us, playing this to drive away the spirits when we were. It's called Buray Dipay. I don't know if you have. I don't know if I've seen any of this in any part. Maybe in Nias they have. I'm not really sure, but this bean pod rattle, and it's used to drive away bad spirits. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, this is, I mean, we all know studying percussion. I mean, maybe when you're 18 and you go to school, maybe that's what happened to me. You know, I wanted to become an orchestra percussionist, and for me it was very clear: practice your 2 hours of snare drum every day, practice your 2 hours of timpani every day, practice your 2 hours of mallet instruments every day. And I mean, for those who know, or for those who don't, let me briefly explain. In Freiburg at the music school, I had a teacher who said, well, that is just one part of percussion, and percussion is so much more. But it's really true. At the beginning, your idea of percussion, especially when you're young, usually is really, or at least where I'm from, right, is very, very a narrow and limited thing. And then when you go into the world, you realize there's so much that can be done. I mean, it's an endless field, right? Mario, how is it? Because you also have this very strong orchestra background. How was that for you? I'll be very interested in that.
I was actually a rock drummer. And then somebody dared me because I didn't really read notes except on a straight line, which is a rhythm clef. And then, it was probably a dare that went pretty wild, because then I got into an orchestra job.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You don't call drummers percussionists. You call them drummers, right? Dave Weckel, for example, you call him a drummer, or
Yeah.
It has to do with a certain kind of practice, and there's some kind of orality in that tradition itself. If you look Dave Weckel, for example, or some other Peter Erskine, those people.
I like this phrase: musicians who read music in a straight line. That should be what we just call everybody else. Musicians who read music in a straight line. That's what they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Precisely.
I only knew the rhythm that goes like this, and then I didn't have to worry about anything else. Just
that's another issue we can talk about. That's another issue. Division of labor.
We have a couple of other colleagues here. I mean, Kevin Costello is here now. Is he? Yeah, he's still here. Somebody just left. Kevin Costello here is. Aris Huzaimi is here. Alfin Satriani is here. Suyin is also here. Do you guys want to say something? You want to contribute? We have maybe 10 more minutes left. And what Sarah said before, you can even, I mean, if you want to speak in Bahasa Indonesia or in Tagalog, I think that's, or Bahasa Malaysia, I think it's no problem. We have people who can translate for those who do not understand.
Is there a Filipino here?
Kevin Costello is here, yeah.
Kevin Costello, yes.
Hey, Kevin, hi, good
Hello.
to see you here. Hey.
Hello, kid. Kumusta?
Okay lang, sir.
Kevin.
I don't know what I have to share, but I think for my experience in studying here in the in the Philippines and in the US, it's quite. I mean, it's a big there's a big difference for environment and the learning styles, I think, and also I noticed like here, based on my experience, I also started as a rock drummer, and I don't even know how to read notes. When I was entering the College of Music, that's the only time I learned how to read notes, because it is a requirement. But other than that, I didn't know. I didn't have a strong foundation in, let's say, classical music, or had a proper training about that. So yeah.
But actually, Kevin, I don't think we should say, "Oh, I wasn't able to read notes." I mean, even that's the truth. But we shouldn't portray it in a negative way, because actually, learning music orally is is actually a thing that is so normal all over the world, and it's probably only this, again, I would like to use this term Western for a second, although I don't like it, this European centric idea that music is written down and then you that's how you learn your music. I think rather that is the minority when we look really at different modes of practice and cultures all over the world. So, and I think even drums can be learned without scores for at least a very long time. Yeah. Maybe then we can come to some closing thoughts from the panelists and also from the listeners. Maybe you want to, Tony, your microphone is on. Do you want to say any last thoughts?
Thank you very much for great today. I am very happy. So this Percussion Asian Forum not stop but continue. So that's great for us. So we connection each other between Malaysia, Filipino, Singapore, and Vietnam, maybe Thailand. Yeah, that's great, great. And also we just not stop, and then we can start continue, not just discussion, but how to we meet. I mean, like we share knowledge. I don't know. Maybe if you want guys to play to Jogja, please contact Total Percussion. If you want, yeah, come to Jogja.
The first thing we can travel to Indonesia. Again, that's what I will definitely do. I will definitely come and visit you.
yeah. So for everybody here, please come. We welcome. We have a coffee and tea. No beer here. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Mac, Kyle, Mario, Jonas, Sarah, and Alvin, Mas Bambang, and other. Yeah, for I think this great spirit, great energy for music percussion in the future. Okay, thank you.
Terima kasih banyak, Mas Tony. Kyle, Mario?
Yeah, I just want to say there's a great initiative to do this today. I think that this is kind of eye-opening, and that a lot of great ideas were thrown around today. I like the idea of looking inward and kind of creating things in the region, really in terms of like networking the region and creating a powerful network here. I think that's gonna be the way forward for the next couple years. Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle. And Mario?
Yes, thank you so much for the invitation. It has actually given me a few ideas putting forward to also shaping our department and how we are doing things as well. And also, like, I always think time of the human race passes, there's always a loop whereby, you know, there's the globalization, then after, you know, when everybody can travel, and then you start doing things yourself, and then after you start mixing. This is the absolute best time to do that. Actually, you have the best excuse to not have any visiting artists. And so yeah, I'm also not making sense of what I'm talking, but thank you so much for all the ideas shared today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I have nothing left to say, but again, thank you to all who contributed, to the panelists, and to the very important contributions from the listeners who actually were also active participants. I think we all agree this Southeast Asian Percussion Forum is born, and we will all witness how it will grow up. So that means there will be a lot more editions coming up with many others. So this is, I just want to emphasize, this is not my forum or my initiative. This is many people who are involved. Of course, in beforehand, we also talked to others as well who couldn't make it today. So I think there are a lot of very interesting people who will contribute in the future. And now, Sarah, I have to admit that I don't know the word singkatan. What is that?
Means abbreviation, like a group of letters pulled together to be the is it? Do we have one? Is it SCPF?
No, we don't. But we could. Yeah, actually, that's good. Yeah, let's make a Facebook group to connect people. And I also like Sarah's idea for the Google Drive. At least, you know, let's quickly talk to the composers if they're okay with that. But then we could also have a Google Drive where people can access scores or even if it's just work lists, you know. Maybe I know some composers prefer that performers write to them first, which is totally understandable. But then at least there is a work list that you can access, and so we make this. Yeah.
Most of my pieces are in YouTube. You can just look at them if you're interested. So.
All right. Then, dear all, thank you so much for these wonderful 2 hours, and I'm looking forward to have the next session soon. Let's see. We need to discuss that.
We should do this. Well, it's a lockdown.
Looking forward.
Great.
All right, then.
Bye, everybody. Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, Max.
Great
Bye-bye.
Thank you all very much. Bye.
Yeah, Max, you create that Facebook thing so we could connect.
We will definitely. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll write you guys. We have a little Facebook group, and then we start this. All right.
Facebook group.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.